Before I start the video, I'd like to warn you that there will be footage of graphics possibly unsettling for some. It may all be in pixels, but still. Also, no people under 15 allowed. Viewer discretion is advised. Let's get to it. Nicalis, a game developer company that has created many games such as Crystal Crisis or Redout, neither of which are as famous as the game I'm gonna talk about here. This game has sold over 5 million copies across multiple platforms like Nintendo Switch and Steam for PC. It has its own Discord server and it even got its own official board games. The game I'm talking about here is none other than The Binding of Isaac Rebirth, one of the games in a small dual game series. The Binding of Isaac is a randomly generated action RPG shooter game with heavy roguelike elements. This means that every round you play, there's going to be a randomly generated sequence of dungeon rooms that you will run around in and kill monsters to survive. The story parts of the game can be shortly explained as such. A mother got told by God to sacrifice her son, Isaac. Isaac then finds and goes through a trapdoor to the basement. Down there, he then runs through all the dangers until he reaches and can kill his own mother in order to protect himself. From this, you in the game as the player will go through this basement, which contains random rooms with random items and monsters that will drastically affect both Isaac's appearance and how you play the game, but also how the story progresses onwards. The items and rooms you get are extremely luck based, and if you successfully complete a run, you can unlock different versions of Isaacs to play as. This will then mix up the gameplay even more. But more on that later. First, I'll bring you through some of the basics of how the game works, so you'll have an easier time playing it yourself. First of all, it's important to note that the game is played using the keyboard only. When you start the game, a narrator will tell you the beginning of the story. After the story is over, you'll see a screen that says press start. When here, simply press enter or the spacebar. This will now bring you into the file screen. Here you can simply click enter again to start the game. After clicking enter, you will first see a menu screen where you can choose between new run, continue, challenges, stats and options. You can choose by using the arrow keys on your keyboard and then press enter to select. You can also use the escape button to go back between screens and close the game. In this case, I will simply choose new run. Here you will be able to choose a character and difficulty. Use the right and left arrow keys to choose character and the up and down arrows to change difficulty. Remember that the characters are different types of Isaacs that you will have to unlock. When you're done selecting, simply press enter. Now we're in the game. You move using the WASD keys and you shoot using the arrow keys. You can drop bombs using E and you use items like pills and cards using Q. You can also use special item abilities using the spacebar. And finally, simply by walking over items and relics will pick them up. That's it. That would be all you need to know about how you play the game. Now it's simply just to run around and try to survive. Now, onto the gameplay and strategies of the game. The game is, as I said before, very luck based, making each and every run of the game you play unique. The easiest way to show this is to give you and lightly go through the highlights of an example game. This will also give you a good idea of how the game looks and plays out, as I will also go through some strategies and general gameplay. So, this round started off quite hard directly with these hoppers and round worms in the first room I went through. But this turned out to be absolutely worth it since I found these two soul hearts and the treasure room immediately. Here I got a teleporter. Just these things alone are really lucky to find, and they're equally as good as well, especially right in the beginning as this may help you survive early game. After this I quite easily got through the short sequence of rooms where I got a key before the boss room. The boss I got there was fairly unlucky since this boss is quite challenging in the beginning of the game without any major upgrades like better shot speed and more damage. A good thing to note with these garglings is that they leave behind a trail of blood. Many monsters do this, and when you walk over it, you take damage. Nonetheless, after the boss I thankfully got some extra health. I had also found some hearts earlier before the boss, which I could go and pick up, before continuing onwards. Basement 2 was generally very chill. I quickly found this level's treasure room and some coin. This is probably also a good time to explain that each level has one treasure room each, and only the first one in basement 1 is free to go into, the rest will be needing a key like this one. In this one I got really lucky with finding this conjoined friend, who will protect me by damaging monsters, as you see here. The rest of the rooms were pretty straightforward and easy, especially with my new friend. The boss was also quite easy because it was Monstro, as here I simply had to avoid his red balls and run away when he was jumping at me. After picking up some speed and shot speed up, I went down to Caves 1. This level didn't contain too much of interest. I got a pay to play in the treasure room, which takes money from you to deal damage to everything in the room. This item is one of those you use by pressing the spacebar, as explained earlier with the controls. I also got a pill, which I never used. The boss was an annoying boss called Chub, who got me down to 2 hearts that I quickly gained back again. I also got more speed up. To be fair, the level was quite long, but there wasn't much more than me just killing monsters. So that was pretty much it before I got down to Caves 2. Caves 2 also went pretty smoothly until I got to this big room full of normal and glazing glow bits. They both run fast and take 2 hits to kill. The strategy for these that worked for me is to just run around backwards and shoot them. When they fall into a pile, I try to aim at that pile to actually kill one, and I do this until they're all dead. After that it was kinda rough, since I lost a few hearts before going into the boss room. I also managed to get an attack fly that protects me, so that's good. In this level I also did something which is good to think about throughout the game. Before going into the boss fight, I made sure to check all the other rooms first. Since I had little health, I stopped after I found the treasure room. But if you have more health, it's always good to go through more, since you could find extra hearts and items to help with the boss. You can see these rooms by pressing tab. The boss of this level was the Gurdy, a boss that sometimes can be pretty hard, especially if you have low health and haven't found a pattern to it. Despite this, I got through to Death 1. Although, since I got down there with low health, I fairly quickly lost my life to more of those glow bits, this time in a more cramped room where I sadly got trapped. This, however, should now give you a good look of how the game is played out, even though I skipped a lot of in-between stuff that takes up time. However, before continuing, I should give you 2 more tips. Firstly, by pressing tab, as mentioned before, you don't only see the rooms you haven't visited yet, but you also see where you left behind valuable items such as hearts, pills, and treasures, which you can go back and pick up after the boss if necessary. Another thing is that you may have seen these locked brown doors. These are shops. They can be worth opening if you have a bit of money and if you're in need of some hearts or other stuff. They usually have a randomized 3-item shop with different prices for each thing, just like shown here. Although, if you're short of money, as I was in the game I showed you just now, my tip is instead to not bother about them, since that can waste valuable keys for treasure rooms. Now then, I showed before that you could choose different challenges. These challenges are a fun part of the game that permanently changes how you actually play the game. Or, well, at least until you change it back, of course, making it sometimes way more challenging and fun. For example, there's this one, called Pitch Black, which both makes the game dark and makes the health bar invisible, so you don't know how much health you have. Then you have this one, Highbrow, where you should pee instead of the normal tears and you poop when you get hurt. There are more than these as well, like these different ones that I show here. So, has Nicholas and Edmund Macmillan, aka the original creator of the game, done a good job? Have they truly been able to create a good game that lives up to its own standards? Well, in my opinion, the answer would be yes. The game is well made. There are very, or rather extremely few bugs in the game. It's both very easy and smooth to play the game, and you don't really need anything super strong to actually run it. And I've never encountered a single crash, and I've only seen a few very minor bugs. It's also a good mixture of both chill moments and stressful times, and there's also a lot of gore and creepiness, which I like. The pixelated 8-bit like graphics are also really nice and soothing to look at. And not to speak of all the different, sometimes minor but amazing sound effects and other effects. There's also a good balance of difficulty, not too easy, but also not so hard that you rage every breath you take from how annoying it is. All of this combined just adds to the game and really makes it feel complete and well made. It makes a fun experience in a dark and creepy place. The luck-based game style also adds to the game, since you never really get bored. I mean, every single game you play, you always get a new and unique challenge. And even if that isn't enough, you could still make it different using those challenge modes that I showed before. Another well implemented feature of the game. Another funny little thing, which I actually learned while writing the script, is all the different weird and wonky names for all the monsters, like Round Worm, for example. Those are just little things that I just think makes the game so much more wild and creative, and it feels so much more unique than any other game, really. And so with that, I would genuinely give The Binding of Isaac Rebirth a solid 10 out of 10. Compared to other games out there, it really stands out to me, and it is definitely one of the best. I would recommend this to anyone who likes a bit of gore and challenge, and for those who likes dungeons and killing monsters. Anyone with a mediocre computer could easily run this game. Just make sure that you're not under 15. I mean, the game has an M rating for a reason. But if you're old enough, then go on, get down there. Kill your mother, just please not in real life. And remember, do not die, cause you simply don't respawn. Hope you enjoyed, and good luck. Goodbye, cruel world. XOXO Mushi.